Praise the Lord Jesus Christ. Welcome to Bible for Overcomers. I want to talk about Project Babel. I've called it Project Nimrod in the past, but I think Project Babel is a better name for it. So we are witnessing now the globalists moving organized fashion, hundreds upon hundreds, even thousands, blocks of people from one end of the earth into another, sowing chaos and confusion. And this plays right into their hands, because the more confusion and chaos there is, the more people in these respective countries that are undergoing these invasions will look to daddy government and for big solutions. And before you know it, we're all under the thumb. So let's just define this a little bit, because I see a lot of pastors just completely ignoring this issue, or they're on the wrong side of it, in my opinion. They're equating it to the story of Ruth, for example, a stranger who comes into Israel, comes into God's territory at the time, and seeks shelter. This is a far cry. Somebody that's starving to death, somebody that's being persecuted, it is a far cry from migrants coming for purely economic reasons, being bused, shipped, flown with huge amounts of money and organization behind it for the sole purpose of weakening and creating havoc in these host countries. And I think we need to really look at it. AntiChrist needs to have mass confusion when he takes power. His system, the matrix itself, in whatever nascent form it is in now, it needs to have confusion. And that's why quasi-Christian countries are the only ones that are being targeted in this manner. And I realize Japan now is an exception to that, but 98% of this is coming in towards what used to be the Christian West. I know that's kind of a joke now, but this is unprecedented in its size and scope and scale. We know that according to Acts, the book of Acts, God said that He is the founder of nations, of borders, of walls, of tribes. In that, and for this reason, that everyone may seek God, because there's enough challenges and problems in life as it is. But when you heap people group, religion upon religion, confusion, mix it all up, you're going to get chaos. And God is not the author of confusion. This has been tried one time before. Right after the flood, we have a story here, and it gives us the Anthropology 101 here with Noah's three sons, Japheth, Shem, and Ham. And from them, the earth was overspread. And from these three come all the races and the groups and this and that. But it's Genesis chapter 10. It talks about, it's talking about Ham, and it goes down and it says in verse 8, Genesis 10:8, and Cush begat Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar, which is present day, more or less, Iraq. But that's not the point. Is not where it was. The point is the theme of it. This man Nimrod is a forerunner. It is the Old Testament version of Antichrist. He's going to get everybody under his thumb that he can. He's going to push all these peoples together, and that's what he's doing. The Tower of Babel is just the sprinkles on the kingdom. It's just the cherry on the top. The point is the kingdom. The point is what he was trying to do. And let's see what God did about it. In the next chapter, Genesis 11, it said the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And they built this tower. And so this is all within the kingdom of Babel. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained unto them which they have imagined to do. Let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So you mean God was actually the author of barriers? He was dividing them? Yes, precisely what this is about. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. So yeah, God did. He was the author of the confusion of the language, but for the purpose that these groups, that this forced together, this kingdom of Babel that Nimrod had started, would be wiped out, and that the groups would overspread the earth, find their lands, seek after God within their own lands. That's not a prohibition against exploring and this and that, but it's a point about AntiChrist, the kingdom that was being built. And now we are thousands of years in the future, and never before at this scale, so well organized. And people say, well, the globalists are doing that. I wish people get a little bit more specific. There is tremendous money and organization. Here where I live in the United States, we see not just in the cities, but we see little towns, especially in red states, that they go out of their way to place a group that is absolutely not congruent with that area. They're going to put Islamicists, they're going to put a group that is, obviously there's going to be problems. This is by design. This is the confusion that I'm talking about. And obviously it's not working too well in Germany, Sweden, France, the UK, elsewhere, in my opinion. Again, this is not God's prohibition against people living in other lands, but it's when it becomes an organized movement of people, well-financed. And by the way, I can only say so much on these platforms, but I challenge you to see who, look at the names, see exactly who is financing these NGOs, okay, that are the prime movers, that are bringing people hither and thither, forming their own Babel, as it were, all across the West. And it's only happening in the West, although now they're starting to target Japan as well. So let's just say that we're headed for harder and harder times, more confusion because of some of these things. Now, I know there were sins and things of the past, colonies, explorations, things that slavery, all of that. This here is not going to make up for any of that. This actually is going to sow so much confusion and violence and hatred, and we can already see that happening across Europe. So I know that pastors and preachers, most of them aren't touching this. I understand. But I will just say, I feel that this is something that needs to be discussed. That we need to love one another, but not think that this is the same condition as, say, a Ruth coming across the border. This is a whole different matter. And it's going to display itself more and more in these last days, because there are dark forces behind it. The same dark forces that are behind a whole lot of other terrible crimes against little ones and other topics that can hardly discuss because of the you know what that goes on behind the scenes on these platforms. But anyway, have discernment, see what's going on, love people where you're at, and let us recognize the movements of the enemy, and let us try to respond in Christian love, but also that we should have common sense leaders and laws that do not propagate and encourage the second building of Babel, because that is exactly what the Antichrist is going to ride to power.